Hi guys, I'm Wanda and welcome to Crazy Days. Today we're going to be talking about an unusual story here at Deep South Homestead. I was invited to join a collaboration by Vicky's Country Home, and she asked that each homestead, you talk about something unusual that happened or something unusual about the homestead. So today I'll give you a little history lesson from Deep South Homestead. In order to understand how important Deep South Homestead is to Danny, you would have to have a little bit of history. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Stone and George County, which is the two counties side by side here where we live. To start with, we have to go back to North Carolina. In North Carolina, in 1780s, a man named John King married Mary Smith. Now, they lived in Pitt County, North Carolina. And I have done the genealogy research on some of this, and you can track them throughout a whole lot of land deals and all kinds of things on some of their move. They had several children, and one of them's name was James King. During the War of 1812, in North Carolina on Kings Mountain, these people lived there and fought, and some of them decided to move because of the way the war ended and branch out in different places, and James King was one of them. He left and became a part of a fur company because back then trapping was very big. And I researched this also, trying to find information on the fur company, and it told how they became part of the fur company. And from there, he moved into what was then known as like Georgia country, because this is where it gets crazy when you look things up in genealogy. It said he married his wife, Penelope Jackson, in Georgia. Well, to me, Georgia's over here on the East Coast, way over here, and Mississippi's over here. So I kept looking, and I'm like, why did he travel back to Georgia over here to get married? But what really happened was he left North Carolina, came down through Georgia country, which went all the way to the Mississippi River, including the now state of Mississippi. So he was in Georgia country, if you want to say, or the state of Georgia, when he married. Now it's called Mississippi. James King married a Houma Indian lady. She was the daughter of the chief, or so the story goes, and in order to trade furs, lots of times these young fur traders would marry into the tribe. He didn't want to upset the hunting grounds the native people had here, so he went to the other side of the area from where they lived. James took Penny and went to what is now called George County. One of James King's sons, Nathan, built a house over in George County that is part of it is still standing today. It's called the Nathan King Place. Not too many people knew of this part of the family. They all knew about the Alexanders. But an Alexander girl married Nathan King. They have a house over there. It's in ruins now, but it's still there. The cemetery's still there. They changed the name from the old King Cemetery to, I believe, O'Neill Cemetery or the Coward Cemetery. But originally it was called the Old King Cemetery. A lot of these people I'm talking about are buried in that cemetery. So Nathan King, it comes down, is Danny's great-great-great-grandfather. Three greats, I believe. So that's how it came about. But let's go back to James King, which is Nathan's dad. James and Penny settled land over in George County. We are in Stone County. Danny was born in Stone County, and he had never really ran these part of the woods on this side of Georgia. When he started looking for land many, many years ago, he was going to church out here, and he started riding these roads. And when he did, he found a for sale sign, and he bought this property. He did not know at that time the things I'm fixing to tell you. He came in, he started cleaning out a place for him to put a house, later cleaning out places for gardening and all this stuff. And as he did, he found arrowheads. and pieces of pottery and all kinds of things like that. And Danny has a very extensive collection. This one collection that I'm showing you now is something Danny and I have still continued to find over the last 6 years. These were all found pieces of arrowheads, chips, things like that we found here on this place. But still, Danny did not know the history. He knew that the natives lived here. He did not know the history of his grandparents. When Danny and I married, I'm very much into genealogy, love looking through old books and records and all this stuff, so I ran his family history. And I found out about his great-great-great-great-grandfather and the Houma Indians. I started looking into where on the map they were. It was here in Mississippi, but like I said, James and Penny were over in George County, what is now George County, and Penny's parents lived on this side of town. Guess what? This property and all the adjoining property around is where they lived. This property that we are on, Deep South Homestead, would have been part of the native land, and that would mean it would be part of his ancestry, which is totally amazing, because when we find some of these pieces here, we pick up chips and stuff, and some of the little pieces will almost be a full arrowhead, and we think, what's going on? Was the mom teaching the kids how to make arrowheads, or the dad's teaching them how? And they go, oh no, you messed that one up, and they pitched it half finished, or did they, what did they do? They sit around. We always have these stories. So twice here since I've been here, I found full arrowheads. I found lots of pieces and lots of chips and things like that. But once, when we started Bluebird Farm, Danny and I, he was always finding arrowheads and I was finding chips. And I said, why can't I find a whole arrowhead? I was walking around with a friend out in front of our house, and Danny and I had been talking about putting a building in front of our house for Bluebird Farm to sell our fruits and our produce and stuff fresh. And when I looked down, there was a full arrowhead exactly where we were thinking of putting the building. And I was excited. My first arrowhead, full arrowhead. And we did not build the building because it was going to be very difficult for people to come this far out to a building. So we started taking some of our produce and selling it to other people. So that was Bluebird Farm before Deep South was ever even envisioned. So fast forward a little bit, Deep South became Deep South Homestead on YouTube, and Danny and I started a cabin, an off-grid cabin over in the woods. And the garden in front of it, a lot of these pieces came from, but I had not found another full arrowhead. While he was working on one part of the cabin, he asked me to pick something up for him and hand it to him, and I said, wait. I was walking around looking at the dirt, and in the dirt, this ridge was sticking up. Nothing but the ridge. And all I could see was a ridge, and I started to turn around and walk off because he needed me to hand him a tool. And I said, wait, I'll do it in a minute, just a minute. And I started digging, and I found another perfect arrowhead. And I was really excited because it was right at the back door of our cabin. So guys, that's a little bit of an unusual story, a little bit of a history lesson, and I hope you could follow along. But Deep South was native land. It was land that the Houma Indians did walk on, that they lived on, that they made their arrowheads, that they cooked here. It was an awesome thing to learn of all these things being a part of Danny's history. So I hope you got a little bit out of this today. Thank you, Vicky's Country Home, for inviting us to be part of your unusual story from the homestead. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you from Crazy Days.